The way a sitcom ends is important. Want proof? On February 28th, 1983, something happened in New York City that had never happened before, and it'll probably never happen again. At exactly 11:03 p.m., water pressure across the entire city dropped dramatically. The reason? About 1 million people flushed their toilets at the exact same moment. They'd been holding it in for 2.5 hours, waiting for a TV show to end. And that's not an urban legend. The New York City Department of Environmental Protection actually confirmed it. 320 million gallons of water surged through the system because an entire nation refused to leave their couches while a sitcom said goodbye. From the 1970s through the early 2000s, sitcom finales weren't just episodes. They were cultural events. These were the moments when America gathered around the television to say goodbye to characters who had become family. And sometimes, those goodbyes were beautiful. But other times, they were devastating, controversial, infuriating, or so dark they traumatized an entire generation of children. Today, we're counting down 10 sitcom finales that shocked audiences in ways no one expected, from cliffhangers that were never resolved to twist endings that rewrote everything we thought we knew. These are the endings that fans are still talking about decades later. If you grew up watching any of these shows, you're going to want to stick around. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's dive into television history. Number 10. Soap.
Goodbye, Senora.
Good luck, Private.
Tension.
We're starting our countdown with a show that pioneered the art of leaving audiences hanging, and then never coming back. Soap was a prime-time soap opera parody that aired on ABC from 1977 to 1981. It was created by Susan Harris, and this show was controversial before it even premiered. ABC received 32,000 protest letters before the first episode aired. Only 9 of those letters were supportive. The show ran for 4 seasons, pushing boundaries with storylines that made network executives nervous and advertisers flee. By the final season, the show had reportedly lost so many sponsors that only Vlasic Pickles remained willing to advertise. When ABC announced the cancellation, they did it after the season 4 finale had already been written and filmed. And what a finale it was. 4 simultaneous cliffhangers with no resolution. Jessica Tate faced a communist firing squad. Burt Campbell walked into a political ambush. Chester Tate prepared to murder his wife and son. And Jodi Dallas was trapped in a hypnotic regression. Susan Harris had planned for 5 seasons. She later said that if she had known the show was ending, it wouldn't have ended on a cliffhanger. She did reassure fans years later that Jessica would have lived. A 1983 episode of the spin-off Benson provided partial resolution. Jessica appeared as an apparition, revealing she was alive but in a coma. But the other cliffhangers never addressed. The characters frozen in time, forever. Number 9. Quantum Leap. From one cliffhanger to another, but this one hits different. Quantum Leap ran on NBC from 1989 to 1993. It followed Dr. Sam Beckett as he leaped through time, temporarily taking over other people's bodies to put right what once went wrong. The series finale, called Mirror Image, aired on May 5th, 1993. Creator Donald Bellisario wrote an episode that could function as either a finale or a cliffhanger. Why? Because NBC had told him the show would continue. Then they canceled it anyway. In the episode, Sam leaps into his own body for the first time. He finds himself in a Pennsylvania coal miners bar, where he meets a mysterious bartender who reveals something profound. Sam has been controlling his own leaping all along. He could go home whenever he wanted, but Sam makes a different choice. Instead of finally returning to his own time, he leaps to 1969 to tell Al's first wife that her husband is alive and will come home from Vietnam. It's a selfless, beautiful moment. And then the title cards appear. Beth never remarried. She and Al have 4 daughters and will celebrate their 39th wedding anniversary in June. And then comes the gut punch. Dr. Sam Beckett never returned home. That's how it ends. Our hero, trapped in time forever. And to add insult to injury, they misspelled his name on the final card. Beckett instead of Beckett. Belisario later explained that he refused to write a definitive ending because he didn't believe the show was finished. The cancellation announcement came after filming. The ending was edited to remove references to continuation. A 2022 NBC revival ran 2 seasons without resolving Sam's fate before being canceled itself. Sam Beckett is still out there, somewhere in time, never coming home. Number 8. Cheers. Now let's talk about a finale that actually got it right, and in doing so, set the standard for how to say goodbye. Cheers closed its 11-season run on May 20th, 1993, with an episode called One for the Road. Between 80 and 93 million people watched, depending on which measurement you use. NBC's official estimate was 93 million. Either way, the 45.5 rating and 64 share made it the second highest rated series finale in history. 30-second advertisements sold for $650,000. The episode brought back Shelley Long as Diane Chambers for the first time since her departure after season 5. The central question on everyone's mind: would Sam and Diane finally end up together? Creators Glenn and Les Charles wrote the script, and they later explained why they never considered giving Sam and Diane a happy ending together. It would have felt like going backwards. The show had moved on. The characters had moved on. So, instead, Sam and Diane share a reunion. They realize that love alone isn't enough, and they part amicably at the airport. Sam returns to the bar for one final gathering with the gang. They smoke Cuban cigars and debate what really matters in life. Cliff argues it's comfortable shoes, and Norm delivers the thesis of the entire series. It doesn't matter what you love, whether it's a person or a thing, as long as you love it totally, completely, without judgment. The final scene is Sam alone in the bar. He straightens a photograph of Geronimo. It's a tribute to Nicholas Colasanto, who played Coach and died in 1985. That photo had hung in Colasanto's dressing room and was moved to the set after his death. Someone knocks on the door. Sam's final line? "Sorry, we're closed." The main filming ran from 7:20 p.m. to 2:15 a.m. on March 31st, 1993. 300 people watched. Kelsey Grammer became genuinely emotional during the final bar scene. George Wendt reportedly ad-libbed the shoes remark to ease his co-star's heart. It wasn't shocking in the traditional sense, but it was perfect, and that success launched Frasier, which ran another 11 seasons. Number 7. Roseanne.
Everyone wonders where creative people get their inspiration. Actually, I found it's all around you.
From perfection to, well, this. Roseanne's 9th season is widely regarded as a creative disaster. The Connor family wins the lottery. Jackie dates a prince. Roseanne fights terrorists on a train. It was bizarre, tonally inconsistent, and fans were abandoning ship. The 2-part finale, Into That Good Night, aired on May 20th, 1997. And in its closing moments, the show attempted something audacious. It tried to retroactively explain that entire disastrous season. In a monologue, Roseanne Connor reveals that the entire series has been a book she was writing, based on her life, but with changes she didn't like. The lottery win? Pure fiction. Escapist fantasy from a grieving woman. Because here's the real twist. Dan actually died from his heart attack at Darlene's wedding at the end of season 8. He'd been dead the whole time during season 9. As Roseanne explains it, when you're a blue-collar woman and your husband dies, it takes away your whole sense of security. So she wrote a fantasy where they were rich and everything was okay. But wait, there's more. Jackie was actually gay, not her mother, and in reality, Darlene was with Mark and Becky was with David. Roseanne had paired them with the opposite Healy brothers in her book because she thought they were more compatible. The finale drew 16.6 million viewers, a fraction of the show's peak when it was number 1 in the ratings. Critics were mixed. Time magazine called it off the rails loopy. Others saw it as a noble attempt to salvage a disastrous season by reframing it as intentional meta-commentary. The ending's legacy got even more complicated in 2018 when ABC's revival premiere simply erased it. Dan woke up alive. The whole book thing? Just fiction within fiction. That revival drew 18.2 million viewers, more than the original finale. Number 6. Alf.
Oh, hey guys, you want to grab a brewski?
If you were a kid in the late 80s, this one might still hurt. Alf ran for 4 seasons on NBC, following the Tanner family as they hid a wisecracking alien from the government. It was a family comedy. It was supposed to be fun. The series finale, Consider Me Gone, aired on March 24th, 1990. After 4 years of protecting Alf, the Tanners finally get a chance to send him home. He intercepts a signal from his Melmacian friends who have purchased a new planet. The family drives him to a desert rendezvous. But the alien task force has been monitoring the transmissions. When the rescue ship arrives, military agents swarm the site. The ship flees, and Alf, surrounded, alone, captured. He tries to joke. Hey guys, you want to grab a brewski? The screen displayed to be continued. It never continued. NBC had given creators Paul Fusco and Tom Patchett a verbal commitment for a 5th season. Then they reversed course. The show had dropped from number 10 in the Nielsen's in season 2 to number 39 in season 4. NBC needed the slot, reportedly for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Brandon Tartikoff later admitted to Fusco that canceling the show was a big mistake. He said they had at least 1 or 2 more seasons left. The production had been miserable behind the scenes. Anne Shadeen, who played Kate Tanner, described it bluntly. There was no joy on the set. A 30-minute show took 20 to 25 hours to shoot. Max Wright walked off the set after the final take, collected his bags, and disappeared without saying goodbye. A 1996 ABC TV movie called Project Alf attempted resolution. Alf escapes captivity and becomes ambassador to Earth, but no Tanner family members appeared, and fans largely rejected it. For millions of children, their last memory of Alphys, a furry alien being captured by the government, with no one coming to save him. Number 5. Saint Elsewhere.
He sits there all day long in his own world, staring at that toy.
Now we enter the territory of finales that fundamentally changed how we think about television. Saint Elsewhere was a medical drama. Technically, not a sitcom, but it's consistently cited alongside these finales for good reason. The show never cracked the top 40 in yearly Nielsen ratings. It was nearly canceled after its first season, when it finished 99th out of 100 shows. But the finale, called The Last One, aired on May 25th, 1988, and it drew 22.5 million viewers. Its most watched episode ever. Writer Tom Fontana later revealed that the writers had maintained a running list of potential endings throughout the show's run. They were always expecting cancellation. Rejected options included a nuclear bomb detonation and the revelation that Dr. Westfall was the second gunman on the grassy knoll. Executive producer Bruce Paltrow selected the snow globe as, in his words, the least bad option. In the final scene, the camera pulls back to reveal that Tommy Westfall, the autistic son of Dr. Westfall, has been staring at a snow globe. Inside, it is a miniature replica of St. Eligius Hospital. His father enters wearing a hard hat. He's revealed to be a construction worker, not a doctor. 6 seasons of storylines. Every patient. Every doctor. Every dramatic moment. All of it existed inside a child's imagination. Paltrow predicted the reaction perfectly. Some people would find it extraordinary and existential. Others would find it puzzling and unfulfilling. He was right on both counts. But the ending's greatest legacy is the Tommy Westfall universe hypothesis. Comic book writer Dwayne McDuffie first articulated it in 2002. Since St. Elsewhere crossed over with Cheers, and Cheers spawned Frasier, and Frasier crossed with other shows, the logic implies that over 400 television shows exist inside Tommy's snow globe. Tom Fontana noted with bemused pride that someone did the math once, and something like 90% of all television took place in Tommy Westfall's mind. Number 4. Newhart.
You won't believe the dream I just had. What? But don't you want to hear about it?
The St. Elsewhere twist was divisive. The Newhart twist was universally beloved. And the best part? It came from Bob Newhart's wife. At a Los Angeles Christmas party around 1987, Jenny Newhart made a suggestion to her husband. The final show should be you waking up in bed with Susie and describing this dream you had about owning an inn in Vermont. Suzanne Pleshette, Newhart's co-star from The Bob Newhart Show, his previous sitcom from 1972 to 1978, was at the same party. She immediately agreed to participate. The Last Newhart aired on May 21st, 1990, and the secrecy measures were elaborate. A fake ending was deliberately leaked to tabloids. In that version, Dick Loudon dies from a golf ball and meets God, played by George Burns. Pleshette was given a code name and smuggled onto the lot in a golf cart. The cast learned the twist only days before filming. Crew didn't know until after the dinner break. The Bob Newhart Show bedroom set was rebuilt behind a curtain. When the curtain dropped during filming and Pleshette appeared, the studio audience's reaction was genuine. The entire 8-season run of Newhart, just a dream that Bob Hartley from the Bob Newhart Show was having. The eccentric Vermont townspeople, the Darrells, everything. A psychologist's very weird nightmare. The episode drew 29.5 million viewers with an 18.7 rating and 29 share. It holds a 9.7 rating on IMDb. Rolling Stone called it the single best joke any sitcom has ever used to say goodbye. And here's a fun fact. Lisa Kudrow, years before Friends, appeared in an early career role as one of the Darrells' wives. Number 3. Dinosaurs.
Are we gonna move?
Well, no. There's no place to move to.
If you grew up in the early 90s and this episode doesn't haunt you, you might have blocked it from your memory. Dinosaurs was a family sitcom. It aired as part of ABC's TGIF lineup. It featured adorable puppet dinosaurs, including Baby Sinclair with his catchphrase, "Not the mama." Jim Henson himself conceived the show in 1988 and worked on it until his death in May 1990. His son Brian continued the project. The series finale, Changing Nature, aired on July 20th, 1994, and it remains arguably the darkest ending in the history of American family television. The episode follows a cascade of environmental catastrophes caused by corporate negligence. The We Say Yeso Corporation, whose executives bear names referencing oil companies like BP Richfield and Ethel Phillips, builds a factory over the mating grounds of beetles that control an invasive plant species. The beetles go extinct. Earl Sinclair's We Say So task force sprays defoliant that kills all plant life on the planet. Their solution, bombing volcanoes to create rain clouds, instead triggers volcanic winter. Scientists announce the sun won't shine for tens of thousands of years. Earl's final monologue to his family is quietly devastating. He admits he shouldn't have taken nature for granted. He apologizes for his faith in progress, convenience, and technology. Baby Sinclair asks what's going to happen. Earl doesn't know. His final words carry the weight of dramatic irony visible only to the audience. After all, dinosaurs have been on this earth for 150 million years, and it's not like we're just going to disappear. News anchor Howard Handupme delivers the closing line. This is Howard Handupme, saying goodnight and goodbye. Snow buries the Sinclair home. Writer Kirk Thatcher later explained that the episode wasn't originally intended as the series finale. It was written as a potential ending that became the actual one when ABC announced cancellation. Michael Jacobs, one of the show's creators, reportedly quipped, "If you're going to cancel the show, I'm going to cancel the dinosaurs." The series holds a 91% Rotten Tomatoes score, with season 4 at 100%. Clips regularly go viral on social media, and the environmental message about corporate greed triggering ecological collapse, it resonates more strongly now than it did in 1994. Number 2. Seinfeld.
The second button is the key button. It literally makes or breaks the shirt. Look at it, it's too high.
If MASH proved a finale could unite a nation, Seinfeld proved one could enrage it. The finale aired on May 14, 1998. NBC charged up to $2 million per 30-second spot. At the time, that was the highest price in television history. It exceeded even the Super Bowl. The episode drew 76.3 million viewers. Larry David, who had departed as showrunner after season 7, returned specifically to write this finale. In the 75-minute episode, Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer are arrested in a small Massachusetts town under a Good Samaritan law. Their crime? Mocking a carjacking victim rather than helping him. A parade of returning guest characters testified against them at trial. All 4 were sentenced to a year in prison. The reaction was volcanic. Entertainment Weekly gave it a C- and called it off-key and bloated. USA Today awarded 1.5 out of 4 stars, calling it a slow, smug exercise in self-congratulation. Newsday labeled it a major comedic disaster. The core complaint was this: a show built on no hugging, no learning had delivered a moralistic punishment of its characters, and it felt like a glorified clip show. The trial format recycled old storylines rather than generating new comedy. The ending, with the 4 leads sitting in a jail cell, felt needlessly bleak. Security around the taping had been extraordinary. All script copies except one were destroyed after the table read. Extras were drawn from producers and cast members' families, all under legally binding NDAs. A fake working title, A Tough Nut to Crack, was circulated. A decoy, not guilty verdict was filmed. Despite all this, Jerry Seinfeld later expressed reservations. He said he sometimes thinks they really shouldn't have even done it, because big is always bad in comedy. Jason Alexander called it a good episode, not a great one. Julia Louis-Dreyfus joked on David Letterman's final top 10 list in 2015, thanking him for letting her take part in another hugely disappointing series finale. One remarkable footnote: Frank Sinatra died the same night. Beverly Hills fire officials attributed the unusually fast ambulance response to streets emptied by the broadcast. TV land went dark during the airing, displaying only a note reading, "We're TV fans, so we're watching the last episode of Seinfeld." A partial critical reassessment has emerged over the decades. The Curb Your Enthusiasm series finale in 2024 directly mirrored the Seinfeld trial structure. Then, it reversed the verdict in a post-credits scene. Many saw this as Larry David's meta-commentary, or perhaps his do-over. David himself has never wavered on his creation. But the episode remains on most worst finales lists nonetheless. Number 1. MASH.
Maybe we will see each other again, but just in case we don't, I want you to know how much you've meant to me.
And here we are. The finale that caused 1 million toilets to flush simultaneously. The most watched scripted television broadcast in American history. A record that has stood for over 4 decades, and it will almost certainly never be broken. Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen aired on February 28, 1983. The 2.5-hour CBS finale drew 105.97 million average viewers, a 60.2 Nielsen rating, a staggering 77% audience share. Let that sink in. More than 3/4 of every television in use in America was tuned to the same channel. Alan Alda directed and co-wrote the episode alongside 7 collaborators. The script ran 138 pages and took from April to September 1982 to complete. 30-second advertisements cost $450,000, more expensive than that year's Super Bowl. The emotional centerpiece was Hawkeye Pierce's psychiatric breakdown. It was built around one of television's most devastating reveals. Hawkeye recalls telling a woman on a bus to keep her chicken quiet to avoid detection by an enemy patrol. Through therapy with Dr. Sidney Friedman, he realizes what actually happened. The woman had smothered her own baby. Alda's performance in that scene is frequently cited as one of the finest moments in television acting. Surrounding this were equally wrenching farewells. Winchester discovers his beloved Chinese musicians have been killed. Father Mulcahy loses his hearing, saving POWs. Klinger, who spent 11 seasons trying to get out of Korea, ironically chooses to stay. The final image is Hawkeye ascending in a helicopter. He looks down to see Goodbye, spelled in rocks by B.J. Honeycutt. A real wildfire through Malibu Creek State Park on October 9, 1982, had destroyed much of the outdoor set during filming. Alda wrote 2 additional scenes incorporating the destruction into the storyline. The cultural impact was immediate and measurable, hence those New York City toilets. Jamie Farr organized a time capsule burial on the Fox lot at midnight. The entire cast contributed mementos, but a construction worker later accidentally discarded it during renovations. The record stood until Super Bowl 44. In February 2010, edged past it with 106.5 million viewers. But MASH still holds the records for highest rating, 60.2 versus 45, and highest share, 77% versus 68. No scripted program has come close since. No scripted program ever will. Conclusion. So what do these 10 finales tell us about television and about ourselves? They reveal a fundamental tension in storytelling. Whose ending is it? The creators or the audiences? MASH and Cheers answered that question by honoring both. They delivered emotionally honest conclusions that respected characters and viewers alike. Newhart found a third option, pure comedic surprise that rewarded loyalty to an actor's entire career. Saint Elsewhere and Roseanne chose the artist's prerogative. They made bold statements about the nature of fiction itself. Seinfeld tried to be true to its philosophy, and it discovered that audiences wanted sentimentality from a show that had spent 9 years mocking it. The cliffhangers, Alf, Soap, and Quantum Leap reveal something uglier: the power of networks to sever stories mid-sentence, leaving characters suspended in peril, and audiences without closure. and Dinosaurs? That might be the most devastating finale of all, precisely because it offered total closure. The extinction of its entire cast, broadcast to children on a Friday night, with an environmental warning that grows more urgent with each passing year. What unites them all is their refusal to fade quietly. Every one of these endings provoked something stronger than satisfaction: shock, grief, fury, wonder. Television has produced thousands of series finales. These are the ones we're still talking about. These are the ones that proved an ending can be as powerful as anything that came before it, and sometimes more so. If any of these finales hold a special place in your memory, whether it traumatized you as a kid or united your family around the TV, let me know which one hit you the hardest. And if you made it this far, you're clearly someone who appreciates television history. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into the shows that shaped us. Until next time.